Hey everyone. This will be the slideshow, just my commentary on it from the workshop. And let's just dive in. So, this very brief slideshow is going to give you a little introduction to these two journaling methods, as well as kind of explain the whole universe and spirituality. So, it's a tall order, but I think we can get there. Again, this is 10,000-foot view and just seeing how everything falls into place, starting with the big picture. Okay, so yeah, just goal, introduce both journaling methods, provide the context, and really explain why these two journaling methods come in a certain order. And we're actually going to start off with the second style of journaling, which is kind of the inner child parts, this inner family. It sounds really crazy, but we'll get there. So that's the second style of journaling, and we'll explain that first, and then the first style of journaling hopefully explains why the first style of journaling comes first. Okay. So we start off with, spirituality, the soul, the self. You got all these different names for it. Inner light. I like that one. In eating enlightenment, this inner light consciousness. And we start off by this revolutionary idea that it is still, my own enlightenment. It's kind of cool that you can hopefully be a part of my own journey. I've been studying this for a long time, but this stuff is rich and complex, and there's a lot to learn. So I've been studying this for a while, and this is a new perspective that I'm really embracing. And I heard a great analogy on a podcast the other day, which said that just like Sigmund Freud, about 100 years ago, he said, hey, we have an unconscious. It was mind-blowing back then that our brain, our brain would have an unconscious, stuff that we weren't consciously aware of, that nonetheless influenced our behavior. Now we know that is true. Now we know that's 100% true. Freud was, a weird guy in many ways, but this idea was very revolutionary back then. And I think we're hopefully this idea of, we're not just one person, but we have multiple selves, is the next revolution. And it really fits so well into healing from eating as well, healing eating struggles, making sense of this inner conflict and why there's a battle going on, and unburdening these parts. And so anyways, with that in mind, we have the soul in the beginning. And this is not to say that multiple selves is like multiple personality disorder or anything like that. This is normal. Everyone has a plural mind. There are other names for these different personalities. You got archetypes, inner child parts, complexes, ego, voices. I think we are all more or less familiar. We have different parts in our subconscious. And I think the key thing here is that these actually are like humans. They're not just objects. They're literally like people in you. Like, just like nations are made up of a bunch of people, cities are made up of a bunch of people. Well, what if you're made up of a bunch of people as well? Different yous from different ages. And, you're not really any of them. You're the soul. And your job through the second style of journaling and through this training is to get reconnected with your soul and self so that you can sort of lead these different parts. You can sort of harmonize these different personalities. So unfortunately, like if you're in America, right, a lot of conflict, polarization these days, and people of all sorts of relationships, they fight each other. They don't get along. The binge part of you might really not like the controller side of you, and vice versa. The controller side of you might absolutely hate the binge side of you. And so there's this distrust in the system, right? And when there's distrust, it's really hard for there to be flourishing. It's just people are afraid, and it's really hard to have harmony. So hopefully the second style of journaling shows sort of a very brief sketch on how we can start to work with these parts, and heal these inner things. So this is a useful concept when we're thinking about binge eating. Just to put this in context, as an internal battle with multiple selves, we have like one self, right? So we're kind of getting into some new language here, but you can see how these map onto each other. So we have like three different personalities. This is just a little example. Manager, right? The manager is as a person, an inner person of yours. A lot of us have them. There can be different personalities, but oftentimes there are some common themes, which the manager, controller, striver, perfectionist, productivity person, that's kind of in this theme right here of restriction. So oftentimes binge eating starts off as this perfectionism. Eventually there's a deprivation and inner pain that the manager is a little bit too controlling or a little bit too rigid, is not really tuned into what it's actually how you're feeling. And eventually another part of your personality comes out, this firefighter that says, hey, I gotta get you out of this pain. This pain is bad. Too much hunger, too much stress, too much giving to others, too much burnout, too much whatever, too much thinking. Got to get you out of that pain. So this other person, a real person, kind of takes in and rescues you. And then deep down, there's a lot of shame, right? But so you binge, right? Manager, the inner pain, the firefighters make you binge. There's a shame, right? Now, another group of managers, like, actually, believe it or not, like an intellectual part or a pessimist or a judgment or an inner critic. These are actually people, inner children in you, who are trying to protect you from shame, right? So instead of feeling disappointment or rejection, for example, the inner pessimist in you might say something like, it wasn't meant to work anyways. Like, don't be disappointed, like lower your expectations, or the inner critic, with all this shame of being weak, might be like, you're weak, like you got to be strong. And it's very paradoxical that the inner critic is trying to shame you, right? I mean, calling someone you're weak when they're weak is when there's pain, when someone's just binged, and when there's pain there, the inner critic tries to motivate you through shame. Get back on the, what do you get back? And so these are different parts, and they're all a little bit this is a big mindset shift for a lot of different people, is seeing it as a system, seeing it how these different parts interact, how they're all unbalanced, how they're all sort of fighting each other. And the end result is a nasty pattern that just keeps on going on and on and on and on. The shame voice gets you to start restricting again, wants you to be perfect so that you avoid the binge shame. And then the perfect side of you is a little bit too uptight, and you get this deprivation, and then the other side of you has to come out and rebalance it, and then the other side has to come out and cover it up, and it's just this cycle. And it's all because the parts aren't aware of each other. It's unconscious. These parts, it's pretty common for them to really not be aware of each other, or to be aware of each other but not on any sort of meaningful way. It's almost like they're fighting separate battles, and together it just creates a whole mess. So this is kind of the image that summarizes all this. The manager is this caregiver with the restriction. Here's another manager who tries to block out the shame and gets you. These managers really try to block out all this shame, all this stuff. They're trying to block it out, right? All this shame from the inner child, all this shame from the exiled wounds of the inner child. This firefighter, if the manager can't, through perfectionism or somehow this pain comes out, the firefighter, the binge, really tries to rescue you, right? Eating for comfort. And so this is just a revolutionary way of looking at this. This is the second style of journaling, where instead of trying to control these parts or trying to make them go away or to suppress them, it's really about connecting to them, understanding them, harmonizing them, letting them work together, letting them trust each other, and bringing harmony to the system as a whole, rather than through some other means. So you can look at this. I'm just gonna skip past this slide. I'll just talk about it briefly. But anyways, firefighters, they protect automatic reacting. When anything hits too close to home, creates illusion of stability, right? By distracting and distancing from pain, anger issues, eating disorders. And this is, the managers protect and creates illusion of safety with inner critic, uses self-sufficiency to prevent humiliation, abandonment, perfectionism, etc. And this middle part right here is when we can connect with these, when we can literally talk to these. That's the beauty of the second style of journaling, is you can literally talk to these firefighters and you can understand them and they can let go, and they really can help you see your core self. Normally they're afraid of letting you see this, but anyways, that's those three parts. Yeah, so wants to be seen, these exiles, the shame, the vulnerability, um, they want to be seen, but these protectors, these managers and firefighters, they feel that it will destabilize, you'll be overwhelmed. And so when you're able to like get grounded, right, that's the first style of journaling, getting grounded. When you're able to get grounded and come from a more grounded place, then the firefighters and managers can trust you a little bit more to relax. Again, these are inner children, the same techniques of working with the inner children, you do that with the firefighters. And I just clicked the next button. So let's just go on to the next button, or the next slide. I didn't mean to click it, but here we are. This was just a similar example, drawing on another common healing eating method, intuitive eating, fourth principle, challenge the food police. And a lot of these different therapeutic approaches to binging, we're working with these internal dynamics, and a lot of it is these internal voices, right? So it's very similar to intuitive eating. Internal voices exist, right? That we need to heal these voices to eat intuitively, but it's just a little bit different. Oftentimes a lot of different approaches, they again try to challenge the food police. There's this antagonistic energy. There's a pushback, a you're wrong type of thing. And this is the opposite. This is the yin, like when I was teaching yoga, it was all about yin energy, passive energy, sort of. Yeah, and so these parts, there's no bad part. There's no bad inner child. All these things are just trying to protect you. And our job is to very be curious. Like, even if you're disgusted at a part, you can learn real quick to take the part that is disgusted at another part and to say, hey, disgust, I know you are disgusted at this weakness that you see. Can you let me be with this weakness, this binge weakness, and let me understand it? And the disgust part of you, that person will say, yeah, okay. And then you can actually spend some time being curious with this binge part of you, or the inner critic part of you, and seeing, what is it afraid of? What's it trying to protect you from? What does it want you to know? What's its role? And how can you, your soul, right, help release it from that role? You need to bring your soul energy to these parts, and they need to be able to feel this soul energy like a sun. And there's there's like mist, right? The sun rays vaporize the mist over time. The sun rays vaporize the mist. So these parts, they're all like fogging. They need to feel the sun from yourself to lighten. And that really is what it feels like. It does feel like a lightning, an enlightening, unburdening. There's that energy there. And so we'll get to journaling method number 1. Right now, this is just journaling method number 2. It's based on IFS. There's these worksheets and dialogues there. We'll just go through. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but this is basically the steps. Once you have an inner vision, once you are more calm, stable, grounded, you're eating a little bit more regularly, you're not starving, you're having adequate food, that first method of journaling, just for a few weeks, takes about people a month or so, mindfulness journaling, to get to this part if they're not there already. Once you're there, this second style of journaling, you find these parts, you flesh it out, you feel it, friend. There's a whole therapeutic process, but ultimately we're trying to unburden it. We're trying to peel back the protectors, gain their trust, let this vulnerable part come up, listen to this vulnerable part, and really give it an energetic new experience. This is similar to EMDR. EMDR, you kind of relive traumatic memories, you go into the past and you give corrective experiences energetically, sort of in an almost hypnotic state, to these different parts, and it allows them to let go. And you really can't let go in any other way unless you go through some psychedelic mushrooms or these other drugs like ketamine or whatever that help kind of shift these parts really deep down. This is a method that you can do consciously, and this is the second method of journaling, where you kind of practice these steps through yourself. Your journaling is much more about talking to these inner parts, talking to this inner child, literally writing out dialogues like you're writing a movie. Like, hey, and so it's a way different style of journaling than most people have ever tried. But it's the second style of journaling, right? So this the first step is yoga and meditation. And I don't know why I put that image in there, but I suppose it's a good photo of me. I just want to give an example. When I learned to meditate, oftentimes you'd hear like stretch first, get your mind a little bit more in your body, get set, right? Prepare yourself and then meditate. And I think that basic analogy is here too. Like if you're trying to do this parts work and you have really very little training in mindfulness, or if you don't really know your cues, triggers, it's really going to be difficult for you to do the second step. So yeah, we kind of got to go one step at a time. And I kind of liken it to this. You can't heal if you can't see, right? So if you have these unmet physiological needs, too little food, you're not eating enough, their survival brain is taking over, you don't know your cues and your cues automatically trigger you. These are your basic needs. It's like stormy seas, right? Chaotic eating, more than one big binge per week. This is the first method of journaling. You got to get this stuff grounded. And the second one is cloudy vision, right? So even if the sea is calm, then there might be clouds overhead. Again, this is kind of in the same basic challenges on this first pyramid. The bodily sensations, thoughts, and feelings are very clouded. It's very hard for you to sort of make sense of everything. And so these two obstacles, the hunger levels and the hormones and the eating is all thrown off, and as well as an inability to really connect enough to your body. These are the first two obstacles. And that's what journaling method number 1 aims to address. So journaling method number 1, calm the stormy sea, right? Meet physiological needs. As the sea calms, you can naturally see better. It's basic cognitive behavioral therapy. How? This is an example. You write with awareness right before you eat. This is not about calories, but you really just write sort of, what you're feeling. You try to write before you eat. You notice when there are binges. And just by doing this method right here for a few weeks and trying it, immediately you'll start eating better. This is the great part about it. You will start eating better immediately. Your binges will go down. You will eat healthier. And most importantly, you will start to notice a few important things. You'll see if you're eating 3 to 5 times per day. If you aren't, you'll see that oftentimes when you binge, it's because you didn't eat 3 to 5 times per day. And seeing this on paper will give you the motivation to eat 3 to 5 times per day, to just bring those binges down. Because you're seeing the ravenous hunger. Oops, let me go back. Sorry, ravenous hunger. You're seeing ravenous hunger. And you're not letting too much time go by without eating. And then you're also eating a lot more protein. You're eating more sustenance. You're feeling basically full and content for a few hours after eating, right? That's the basic step 1, right? That's journaling step 1. Right before you eat, figure out these cues and start getting into your body, noticing calm, writing out, getting in your body, a little headache, right? Like feeling this stuff in your body. It only takes a few weeks. It doesn't take too long, but there's got to be some sort of foundation, right? So I'd say when you're able to catch a binge and your binges are going down and you're eating more regularly and you're eating a little bit more and you're feeling a little bit more stable and you are starting to express how you feel in your body on paper, probably can start working with the parts. Yeah. So writing with awareness builds muscles to see inside yourself. Yeah. There's just so many benefits to writing out your emotions. And it really is just great. So I'm not going to go too much into this, but yeah, they make you more aware when you write your emotions, helps you process your thoughts, and it also helps you hold you accountable too. Journaling is just so good in so many different ways. And when I work with people, for example, I do want to see journal entries because that's a big way of accountability. Okay, so that's it. That's journaling methods 1 and 2. We covered the second one first. It was about the inner parts. We went through that little circle briefly, and about unburdening those parts with the rays of the sun. being able to shine the inner rays of your consciousness on these inner parts and healing them with awareness. That's method number two. But you kind of need to have an inner vision. You need a little bit more stable. You need to put the cast on the arm before you heal. And that's why journaling method number one comes into play first. So that is the summary. And yeah, I'm going to stop recording. If you have any questions, let me know. Yeah. If you need help on these two methods, reach out. Love talking about this with people one-on-one. And since I just coughed, I believe I'm due for a water break, and I will stop recording. Okay, namaste. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.